Hello and welcome. Today we're at Velo Citta in Brazil. We're back in the Mini, back in the vintage touring car Tier 2 Mini. Can't wait for this. I've missed being in a Mini big time. So I've got a 10-minute qualifying which I'll show you the results for in just a moment. The race itself is going to be a 30-minute race on our 15th of June 2024, starting at 5 o'clock in the evening, real time, real weather, a rolling start, no pit stops, and a default progressing circuit. Our opponents are going to be a multi-class field, mixing vintage touring car Tier 1, which is the Corvette and the BMW 2002, with the vintage touring cars Tier 2 class, which is the Little Lotuses and the Minis. We've got 13 Tier 1 class cars and we've got 20 Tier 2 class cars. And the reason we've got that balanced difference is because 20 of the Tier 2 is the maximum grid. And then the rest of the field is backfilled in with Tier 1s. We've got an AI skill level of 112. I've done my qualifying and I've done a couple of test races. The qualifying pace is out of kilter with the race pace. So 112 is the race pace matching, not the qualifying pace. A wet skill scaler of 0.76, which is carried over from the last race. Not going to need it in this race, I don't believe. AI aggression of medium and standard mistakes. Rules and penalties just for completeness. So they're on. I have 5 track limit warnings. Then I'm in trouble, basically. Shouldn't need the pit speed limit. Right, so without further ado, let's get into the qualifying results and then let's get trackside and let's go racing. That was pretty damn close, that with the green Mini there behind me. Now this is going to be a pretty hard fought race, I think, this one. front two are getting away a bit, aren't they? Some lights on the go. Need to clear this grey car, number 6. He braked very early for that first corner. A bit late on the brakes there, just a maybe 5 metres, maybe even less than that. Their exits are really good, even when they're on a compromised line. Their exits are still just as good as mine. Easy. Where are you going, Andrew? Scrappy. Very, very messy. Easy. See what I mean? Front tyres are pretty damn hot though. Couldn't quite get on the throttle as I wanted to. Yeah, kind of my fault really. I squeezed them out a bit, didn't I? I don't quite have the front end bite that I had at the start of the race. No great surprise when you look at the tyre temperatures on the front of the car, but yeah, just not quite as positive as it was. Yeah, sorry, there's not a whole lot of chat going on, is there? There's not much capacity left. Where's that little Lotus going? That little Lotus out the way, really. He's not our race. Come on, dude, you need to just go, please. Jeez, you're getting on. You need to get a wriggle on, mate. Tempting. Oh, a little push. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Oh, it's getting busy, isn't it? I kind of want this Lotus just to go, because they're kind of they're quicker than us, and while they're in the same class, they're not really in our race. They are quicker than us. My focus is on the minis, really. Busy, isn't it? Come on. Nice. Come on, BMW, you too. Ah, come on. Oh, what's up? Ah! Shit the bed. Right, okay. We can focus on minis for another few seconds. Excuse my French just there. Oh. So through all that, we've gained about a second on the Mini. Now in the old days, in 1.5 days, I'd have gained a lot more than that. in that melee with the lapping traffic. I think they were the lapped cars were much more tentative around the lapping cars back in 1.5 days. They haven't finished yet. Yeah, they're not done yet. Need to be on this still. Can't afford to fall asleep. That curve makes my bingo wings shudder and shake. So does this one. Oh dear. So I think we're going to have 2 more laps. Yeah, they're closing in, aren't they? This isn't over, especially if we've got another lap to go after this one. Come on, we can do this. Come on. Ah, we did it. That was the last lap. Ah. I've missed you, old friend. It's nice to have you back. That was good fun. I enjoyed that. That was intense. No let up at all. Right, let's have a little look at the time, shall we? Whoa. Right, let's skip the cool down lap. So we've got Corvette, BMW, Corvette, BMW, blah 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 blah. Alright, all the way down to our class. So we've got 3 Lotuses, then it's us, a best lap of 56.0, which is, oh, look at that, 55.5, 55.3. Whoa! The world record in time trial is a 56.6, and it's on a 55.3. Wow. That's impressive. I'm pleased with that time there, especially on race fuel, 56.0, to be, 6/10 quicker than the world record on race pace. I'm happy with that. Welcome back to the Mini. Right, smiles all round. Let's get into the replay, shall we? Well, it's really nice to be back in my little Mini again. I didn't realise how much I was missing the Minis until I got back into one again. Yeah, it was like meeting up with an old friend again. Just clicked just like that, got in it, and was immediately happy. Yeah, they really are my happy place, the Minis. Also, Velo Citta, another really happy place for me. Very, very rarely have a bad race here, and if I do, it's because I've messed it up trying too hard. Historically, I have found that the AI at Velo Citta is ever so slightly stronger than it is at other circuits. I'm not sure if it's still the case here or not, because I've been moving around in cars quite a lot recently, so I don't have that same familiarity as I used to have. But it certainly was historically the case. But yeah, it was a tough race today. The AI was very, very close. So yeah, I thought the balancing of the AI was borderline perfect, really. There was a couple of places I had a slight edge. There was a couple of places they had a slight edge. But it was really, really tight. And I think that had it not actually been for the touring car tier 1 class cars, I think we would have had possibly a different result for the win of our class. At the very least, it would have been closer, I think. So the AI is still just a little bit more tentative than the player is, or player can be, with lapping traffic. They lost just a little bit more than I did. I mean, that's not necessarily incorrect. You do see it in the real world where, one person can gain, one person can lose, or, but they all seem to lose just a little bit too much, I thought. So they're a little bit tentative. But I would say still better than it used to be in 1.5. I think they've improved a lot, and it's now almost correct, I would say, because I'm sure that if Razer wanted to, they could make it so they didn't lose hardly any time at all. So I think how it is now is probably pretty good, and I think I could have done a better job of letting the AI cars through, and I think I was probably a bit more aggressive in my driving than I probably should have been, and I think it didn't. I don't think it cost me more time. I think if anything, it gained me time, but I'd have been very unpopular with the faster classes had I driven like that in real life. So I think the AI was much more realistic in the way that it approached letting the faster cars through. I was a bit more selfish and really, in the real world, probably risking getting punted off or punched in the face after the race. One or the other, I think. I think that a longer race would have seen me struggle, because I think on a longer race you'd have to at least double stint on tyres in terms of, so you'd have to double fuel stint on tyres, and I think I'd have started to struggle probably about 1/3 to halfway through the second stint compared to the AI. And I've got a theory for that. I'll mention that when we get into the setup details in just a moment. I thought, though, that the touring car tier 1 cars did add to the race. Overall, I thought that they, although the end result might have been a little bit different, I do think that those 3-4 laps where they were coming through, from a driving point of view, was really intense. You had to have eyes in the back of your head. It was really good fun. and I think that the circuit is also very difficult because it's such a flowing circuit, and literally one corner flows into the next, and if you're offline it costs you a lot. So it's a difficult circuit for that scenario as well. If you were to be on any other circuit, pretty much you'd have a longer straight section where they could make what they had to, where they could make the moves they had to make, or you could, go a little bit deeper into your braking zone and just let them nip up the inside or whatever. There's other circuits I think would give far better options in the lapping scenarios. But all the same, very, very happy with that. Also very happy to report that since 1.5, which is the last time I drove this car, the actual car itself has improved a lot. So Razer have done a lot of work on this car, it seems. And if it wasn't a lot of work, then the work they've done has been very, very good and very positive. So in 1.5, the car had a lot of chassis roll. It was very, very soft. It was almost 2CV-esque. Not quite, but not far off, where you would turn in and the car would just roll over like a double-decker bus almost. Whereas now, it's much, much more Mini-like. It's much closer to now being like the Copa B Mini. In fact, actually, it feels like the Copa B Mini on much smaller tyres, which is exactly what it is. And I really appreciate Razer putting the work in on the car, because it's now made it more fun to drive. It's made it more like a Mini should feel, which is absolutely brilliant and fantastic. I'm really, really pleased with it. And yeah, I would like to thank them for that work, because it's the Mini is my thing and they've made it better. So thank you very much. I have also made a note here as well that says, quite simply, vintage racing rules. Yeah, once again, I just love the oldies. I can't help it. The newer stuff just doesn't really float my boat like the old stuff does. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Really, really good fun. Very, very cool, and really pleased that the car is better than it's ever been. Right, let's get into the setup of the car and see what was changed compared to the default setup. We'll see you in just a second. So let's get to the setup. So not a whole lot has changed, but there's some key things. So the main thing, as per the BMW 2002, the tyre pressures have gone down to their minimum tyre pressures available. And that's quite a big change. So the fronts went down from 1.74 bar, and the rears went down from 1.92 bar. So it's quite a hefty change. But they just felt better, lower pressure. It seems like AMS2 does reward bigger contact patch over the ideal theoretical inside, middle, outside, balancing. Now, I don't think it's really that far out from reality either. I mean, we certainly can't be having a pop at a sim for not really truly getting the tyres right or wrong, because race teams, Formula 1 teams, spend millions trying to understand tyres. Pirelli, any tyre manufacturer spends millions on trying to understand tyres, and not even they really truly fully understand it. So it's still very much a bit of a black art, forgive the pun. So I think where we are is fairly sensible, and as long as you know that the game rewards lower pressure, certainly with the vintage tyres anyway, then you can use that. You just do it on feel and lap time rather than on a theoretical system. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I'm certainly going to continue working on the path of doing it by feel rather than by numbers. So yeah, I'm quite happy with where we are on the tyre pressures. Brake pressure was at 90. Brake bias was at 80-20 towards the front. I I think the brake pressure, I would probably use that to help the front tyres out a little bit in a longer endurance race or a double stint. So in this race, I felt like the front tyres were starting to sort of give up a little bit towards the end of the race, and I think that's because I had lots of little like micro locks during the race. So the brake bias needs to sort of kind of stay around where it is. I don't want to move it rearwards because then the rear gets unstable as you're getting in towards the apex and trail braking. But what I could do, because I can lock the fronts almost at will anyway, I could reduce the brake pressure to say, let's say, somewhere between 80 and 90. And then that would give me just a little bit more tolerance for modulation. And I think it would give me a bit more control over those little micro locks. I haven't tried it, it's not for certain, but that's what I'd be looking to do if I went to do a longer distance endurance race where I was looking to double stint tyres. That's what I'd be looking to do. I think that could be quite a handy setting to have. In the suspension, the caster angle went up from 5.7 to 6.7. It's a fairly minor change, nothing really major, just a personal preference thing really. Camber stayed the same at -2, that's as much as you can go. Camber angle at the rear went as much as I could go to -1. Sorry, I need to go back there. -2 on the front is the least you can go. Sorry, I wanted them as upright as I could for the inside wheel to get a bit more traction. Apologies. The rear camber was increased or decreased depending on your viewpoint, but as far negative as I could go, because it started off at 0 as the default. I've gone to -1 just to help try and keep the rears from folding over. Steering lock went from 29 to 30 degrees. Toe in went from -2 degrees, which is a little bit of toe out, to dead ahead at 0, 0. The roll bar went down from 2 to 1, just to give the front end just a little bit more bite in the mid corner, and just get the balance more on the front in the middle of the corner. The rear toe in angle went from 0.0 dead ahead to a little bit of toe in of 0.1 degrees, with the rear roll bar staying the same. I should say actually, the front toe in angle helped the front end, so reducing the front toe out to going straight ahead just helped improve the front end a little bit in the stability on entry, and improve the front end positiveness in the mid corner, which then meant I could run a little bit more toe in on the rear just to help stabilise and get that balance back again. Drivetrain, nothing really to do here, it's just fuel load to cater for the length of race you're doing. The fuel map I would like to run at 0.95, which is the middle setting, but to do that I think I'd have to reduce the AI strength down to say 110, 111 I think, from 112, which is what we ran in this race. So yeah, but I think that would be the right thing to do, because then you're not going to be so susceptible to having engine issues, because the engine points were racking up quite quickly in that race. So I would prefer to run the fuel map in a slightly lower setting. I don't want to have to run it in like a qualifying mode for a whole race. So, but yeah, apart from that, there's nothing else to do there. That's all pretty good. So yeah, well, I'll leave you there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting, and until the next time, see you later.